Sweet, we're live. What is up? Welcome to another Coffee Talks with AJ live stream. We're just hanging out, talking about life, whatever, and drinking some coffee. So, um, usually at the beginning of streams don't have a lot of people joining me, so just people start joining, I'll just give a few quick updates. What's going on with Fire from Heaven and stuff. This is the first week I am working my day job part time. Sorry, nose itching. Good grief! First time I'm working part time my day job, and it's pretty sick. I'm doing full time weekly with the music stuff, so expect a lot of content, and hopefully I don't flood you too hard, but it's gonna be crazy. At least my plan is, and especially on Facebook is gonna be my focus right now. And I'm streaming to YouTube and Twitch. These will probably be one of the only things I live stream to both YouTube and Twitch. I might do something. Well, we'll see how it goes. But the software I use to live stream my studio sessions, it kind of bogs down my computer when I try to live stream it. So I might just post videos. So I won't be able to put it on Twitch anyways, I don't think. But I'll be posting studio sessions on Facebook and YouTube, and working on lots of fun video content ideas and stuff like that. So one of the big things I'm working on currently, give me a lot of things, but that's what's going on. That's me. Anybody joining in, feel free to leave a comment. We're just chilling, drinking some coffee and chatting. I say we are, but it's only me and whoever's watching right now, just one person. So I was gonna share something here in a sec, so I get my computer to load. I'm planning on releasing a single here soon, but it's probably gonna be have like a Google Doc here with the book I'm writing, and then I also have I originally started it as song ideas and stuff, and I started writing a book on it, so I have to scroll all the way down. I should just move to a different one. Roland, good to see you too, man. Thanks for joining the live. Just hanging out. What's up with you? What's going on? Wednesday, because it felt forever for me. Hold up here that I'm gonna share at some point. Hopefully my internet connection isn't messing with anything, because it's kind of dormant outside right now. So hopefully I don't lose power and then disappear. My Wi-Fi is kind of showing that it's pretty low. So I don't know if you're still on here, Roland, or if my Wi-Fi went bad and that's why it's not showing you're here anymore. I don't know. But anyways, those who might not be watching live, but you're rewatching. I'm just gonna continue sharing some stuff. But as people comment and leave comments and stuff, I come up with some stuff that I like to share during these. Um, so this is gonna be like I'll give a what's it called? Gosh, why can't I think of it? Not a disclaimer. I'm kind of blanking out, but I'll give a warning here. I'm gonna share some stuff that from new song. To, if you don't want to spoil the surprise, I don't know why I can't think of what people usually call that. Because my brain's being done. It's getting going. But anyways, I can't think of the word. It's driving me insane. Okay, well, that's gonna bug me though. Everybody's probably gonna be thinking, dude, it's this. What is? Sorry. I almost remembered it and then lost it. It's driving me insane. Spoiler. Gosh, idiot. That's what I was trying to think of. I was trying to Google it and still like wasn't getting what I was looking for, but it just popped in my head. Spoilers. Okay. Gosh, take 5 freaking minutes to think of a word. Okay, spoiler warning. I'm gonna share some lyrics from my upcoming new song. So if you don't want the song spoiled, then skip ahead a little ways. But that was kind of the main thing I was going to talk about in this. All right. It's been a long week, guys. It's only Wednesday. Oh, I'm confident this week's gonna go great. Like I said, like I'm working part time now, so I just did like 2 really long days at my day job, so I have just a whole week free to just make freaking awesome music, make content, make all sorts of stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like a warning. This is a disclaimer warning. There's gonna be a lot of content up on my YouTube and Facebook coming in the weeks to follow. So this spoiler warning again. The song I'm gonna be releasing is called. Well, I'm not. I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna just call it "Day of Indignation" or "A Day of Indignation" or "The Day of Indignation," but it's gonna be one of those. And it's essentially like the part of the story where, and if you're not familiar with me, I'm writing a fantasy book along with my next album, and but anyways, the main character is named Hellstormer. It's kind of like allegorical. Like all these people, they don't have like all their names are sort of like these is sort of like a something describing them, but it's not like a name like you and I have like AJ or whatever. It's just like his name is Hellstormer. That's it. you know. Um, so that's kind of like something different about the story, and the goal is to be allegorical and to, you know, just a lot of it is just sharing my own experience in life and just kind of epicizing it and put it into a fantasy book. You know, parts of my like struggles I've went through in life, lessons I've learned, you know, things like that. But anyways, so this is like the part of the story where he's he's basically been a slave his whole life, which like that might sound dramatic. Like, what, you've been a slave your whole life? Because I said this was like sort of a reflection on my life, and it's just like I said, I'm making it epic and turning it into a fantasy. You know, not that my story isn't epic, but it's just like I'm just putting a new aspect to things I've learned and communicating them in a fantasy way. But anyways, um, so this is the part where he's like indignant. You know, he's mad because there's been things that are wrong happening to him, and you know, different things like that, and there're just a lot of wrong things going on in his world. His world was originally like a garden, and now it's basically a desert. And so, because basically this like otherworldly force that I call demons came into this world, and yeah, there's some religious allegorical stuff going on there. I'm a Christian, so all that I believe and all I am is gonna bleed into anything I do. So, yeah, but this otherworldly force comes into his world and takes over, and turns a garden into a desert, and he's you know, seeing everything sort of in the, you know, plainly. You know, he was taught like these things were okay and stuff like that. He was just taught like his history of his people, which he's of a people called the Fireborn, which Christian parallels there too. I'm not gonna lie. But I think that sounds freaking sick. So originally I had Fire Folk, were the name of the people, which that's still gonna be in the story. You know, they're just kind of gonna be interchanged. Fire Folk, the Fireborn, um, and yeah, I thought that sounded sick. Yeah, I used to play a lot of Skyrim, okay, but it's not copying Dragonborn. It's Fireborn. Anyways, now explain a little bit of context. I'll share some of the lyrics, and some of these might change. Like I have some parts, but like some things might change. I'm still currently working on it. Um, but I'll share the first line. I may not get to all of it, and longer. I am a child of light, of heaven fire. I am a keeper. I'm awakening. Forgive my sinful sleep. Stir the heaven fire in me. That's the first line. It's kind of like an introduction line. And I won't give spoilers of how the song is structured or how it's or anything. If you want to hear what I have so far, I have a demo up on my. So if I'm already spoiling some of it, you could just you can hear the demo if you want and see the progression of it coming into its being in, you know, its full version if you'd like. People are into that, some people aren't. You'd also be helping me create by joining the Patreon, so check out Fellowship of Fire from Heaven on this dungeon. They make it comfortable, like his masters. You know, he has like everything he could ever want. Um, but it is a heavy price for it, and um, basically in the beginning of the story, an architect, and he's helping to build a new palace and courtroom for the master demon, who's just called the devil. Some obvious Christian parallels there, but not as obvious as you think. Like there's, like some of the terminology, there's a lot of Christian parallels, but like sometimes the terminology can seem like it's something whenever it's actually something else at times. So obviously, like again, the terminologies can seem a little bit obvious at times, but it is still allegorical. There's still like deeper meaning going on here and different things. And these characters represent different things. They don't, like, I say the devil, but it's not like specifically necessarily representing the devil like Satan, because there's actually in the beginning, I'm actually working on like a lore book to go with this, which I just need to focus on finishing the first book, because that's what I always do. I start on one book and then I don't finish it, and I'm like, hey, here's an idea for another one. But like in the lore book, there are 7 devils, 6, I think. I couldn't decide between the two. I think it was 6 devils, like 6 devil leaders. I hadn't given them names yet. They were just all called devils. But this is kind of like the main one that he ends up facing in like the climax of the story, I guess, or like the sort of the final battle of the story. But I didn't give too much of that away yet. But he's basically working for this one, and in the beginning of the story, and he's an architect. He's building and stuff like that, but he's being like worked very hard on stuff, and he has like all the comforts like a person would want, except that he just doesn't have a lot of time to enjoy them, basically. So there's a lot of parallels there, not just with my Christian beliefs, but like with my cultural situation, and how a lot of people are living today in the United States, and there's a lot of cultural parallels as well. But basically living in a prison, but it's a comfortable one, and he has everything he needs. He's collected a few books of the history of his people, kind of like secretly. So that's how he starts to come to realize who he is and stuff. And so that's why I say shadow dweller. He's basically living, like, he has to live deep in this dungeon that like I say, it's very dark and it's deep underground, but it's comfortable in some senses. And then but he's saying, I'm not going to dwell in the shadows anymore. That he's discovering who he is, a child of light, and he's discovering he's a keeper of heaven fire, and that awakening. And then he's saying a prayer, forgive my sinful sleep, and asking for the one who made him to stir the heaven fire in him, because he's discovering that there is some spark there still. Otherwise he wouldn't be doing some of the things he's doing. But there's also a lot of like other things he does that are pretty like bad, and there are some parallels in my own life there. But yeah. And on sharing some lyrics here and talking about it. If you're new to what I do, I'm AJ from Fire from Heaven. I make metal music. I also write stories, and with my next album, there's going to be a fantasy book along with the album. So I'm kind of explaining like the lyrics and the story here that's going on. So yeah, but feel free to leave a comment. Love chatting with people. So just chatting and hanging out. I just have stuff like this I talk about as I do these lives. Just as I do this pretty early. So depending where you're at in the world, you may not be up yet or something. You might not be joining in the actual live. So that's fine if you're just watching it afterwards or whatever. But uh, yeah, but don't always have a lot of people to chat with as I'm doing these. So I just have different things I'm going to share and talk about. Again, feel free to leave a comment, hang out, chit chat, post what kind of coffee are you drinking. I'm fake right now. I'm not drinking real coffee. I'm drinking mushroom coffee. But I have real coffee ready. Some people try to completely replace coffee with mushroom coffee. I mean, I enjoy the mushroom coffee. Like it, I definitely notice the difference. It gives me a lot of energy. There's a lot of things in it that just actually help energize. But I don't drink crappy coffee either. I drink coffee that's well made and not as like caffeinating and like making you jittery and stuff like that. Like the coffee I drink is really good and well made. And Invader Coffee, I actually have a affiliate link if you go to my link tree, and they just make the best coffee. I think they air roast it, and it's really good, and it's just it. I think part of like the effect that air roasting has is that it doesn't cause you just have like a massive like energy high, and then you're just like it kind of almost the effect of like green tea or like that kind of caffeine where it just kind of helps space it out better and you have energy for a longer period of time, and it's not so much at once, and then you're just like completely like out of fuel and you just like dragging. It's good. But anyways, I like mushroom coffee as well as Invader Coffee. But anyways, we get to the next line because I think it's awesome. It's like one of my favorite lines in the Lord of the Rings, so I had to throw it in here. Upon the edge of a knife. That's what Galadriel says I think to Frodo as whenever they're about to leave Lothlorien. She's like the quest upon the edge of a knife. I just think it's one of the coolest statements ever. Like Tolkien just comes up with some really freaking cool, like just the way he says things. I think it's just freaking awesome. So I was like, okay, I have to throw that in there. And then the next case of the line is, upon the edge of a knife, between wisdom and folly, though they scourge me, they cannot move me. So this point in the story where he's like very conflicted, and it's like he's upon the edge of a knife. Like it's that hard to balance on between wisdom and folly. Wisdom, in a sense, being a sort of worldly wisdom and saying like, stay under the security of your masters and stay under the security of your slavers, you'll have a safe flight unto death. That's like kind of like a sort of I gonna use a lot in the story, and it's actually like it's this contract that the demon invaders give to the local people and be like, okay, work your whole life, break your back for us, and at the end of it, if you make it to 100 years old or whatever, I'm just kind of randomly made that up, like whatever, like just a random age, 100 years old. If you make it then the rest will give you this nice home, and you can just live the rest of your days in idleness and do whatever the heck you want. And there's some cultural parallels there as well. People might see him or they may not. But that's basically like what he was doing, what Hellstormer was doing, and stuff. Like he was just trying to work so he could have that little bit of time to not have to do anything, and where he could finally rest and not work, basically. And as he was studying the history of his people and the history of his world, he was realizing how far from the truth this sort of, or far from his creator's intended way of living was. Like, how far this way of living was from the intended way he was meant to live by the creator of worlds, which um, his name is Akole, and is in this book and in all my books. It's all gonna be the same origin story of how the universe was made, which is by this uh, being named Akole. I actually have a podcast episode, the Myth Lorecast. You check that out. I only have 2 episodes, but the first episode is actually covering the lore of this story of like the creator of basically my cinematic universe. you know, so it's actually kind of cool. It was a lot of fun making. I'm planning on doing more of those. The second episode is actually about the beginning of Tolkien's world. So those out if you want. Here, actually, real quick. I'm gonna pull up Spotify here and get a link to it, and I'll share it in the comments so people can see it and check it out. Get more episodes of that. So I only have 2 up, and it's been like probably 2. So that kind of connection. It's only been a half an hour. I plan on doing these like hour-long live streams, depending. Um, and here, sure, on my first podcast I started called the Fireosophy, which is basically the Fire from Heaven philosophy. I have that on as a bike that uploading these on all the past live streams as well. But we'll get back to the story here. So it always but where was I? Back to this statement. Upon the edge of a knife between wisdom and folly. So basically, like, the world's way is telling him one thing, and then the ways of his people is telling him another. To the world, you know, this decision he's about to make it's foolish. It's dumb. It's like, why wouldn't you just stay here? Like, we keep you safe, we keep you secure, we give you food, we give you shelter. All these things. They're like, why are you so ungrateful, and why are you like trying to rebel against this? It's basically like the his masters, and they start to notice that he's like questioning things, questioning their ways, and questioning their customs and stuff like that. Um, why are you so ungrateful? This sort of thing. Now, like, this is foolish. That's that. So that's like the place he's in. During this song, and he's realizing that these creatures, like his masters, from his world, and they're plaguing his world. They've turned his world that was originally a garden into a desert. And he's seeing the truth, and it's like he's essentially has a dream. In the dream, he is called to start facing this and rebelling against these demons, and he's basically called to start a rebellion against this demon and call it. So that's kind of the place he's at, and he's like, point of this story, he's making a stand, and he's still a little bit hesitant. As he this kind of just it's when he makes a stand, but at this point it's kind of like a little bit before he makes his stand. Um, and these are just some of the thoughts. Real quick, I'm just gonna doggone. Real quick. All right. So yeah, I got wait, yeah, 2 episodes. So the first episode is Okole and Umbreoth. That's the one I'm talking about, like the lore of my worlds, like the lore of my cinematic universe. And then the other one is about Ainulindale, the music of the Ainur. So what I do is different, like I'm gonna be going through more of Tolkien's stories, and I'm just taking a different approach in that I'm like then I can go into explaining a little bit of the lore as far as I understand it, some of the things I know about it. Um, so yeah, that's what I do there. Here's the link to it. I'm gonna post it in the comments. And back to what we were doing. Um, Next line. This is like the first verse. So those parts were like kind of like a so the introduction and like sharing again like some of the thoughts that's going through his head. Now this part, first line: witness the dawn of hell's destruction, a day when it will awaken. He's referring to himself and his people as like his people were almost treated as like a myth now at this point in his world's history, and which are the Fireborn, and they're again they were like the Fireborn are basically descended from two Adradari, which were servants of the creator of worlds, and the so the two Adradari are stewards of the world. They were sent to steward the world and just fire, and their names were Aisha and Ava, and they had 2 children, a girl and a boy that were named after them. And then those two were trained in the ways of like the Adradari, which are like again the servants of the creator, and they were sent to take light to all the darkest corners of the universe basically, and to find the place where the darkness came from, because the darkness was like something that was like leaking into this universe from like another universe sort of. But anyways, they were trained at, for hundreds of years. They helped their parents steward the world, and as the world was beginning, there's a lot of work to do and everything. But as they lived there, they married local people. I mean, they obviously lived a lot longer than the people, so they had different wives and husbands and children, and that's what became the Fireborn people, because they were born from these Adradari who had the fire of Okole, and they were able to some of them, like the strongest of them, were able to wield fire, kind of like a firebender in Avatar. Um, but this was like a different fire. It's like a, you know how like the obviously the firebenders in Avatar, like at the point of the story, like they're evil and stuff. So like yeah, it is my idea, but it's not gonna be the same. They don't like just bend fire. The fire is more of like internal power than anything else. And some of them are able to like wield it as a sword or as a manifested weapon. They're able to manifest their fire into some sort of weapon, but they're not able to just like shoot fireballs out of their hands and stuff like that. All right, so yeah, that's kind of like what he's saying. He's like these like basically his people were treated as myths and legends during this time, and he's realizing like the truth of who he is and that he is a myth basically, and that's what he's saying, like he's awakened, so the myth and legends awaken. It's kind of what he's saying. Then he goes on to say, hell within, great chaos untamed, be set against the imperishable flame. He's talking about basically there are things causing conflict in him, um, that there is not only hell outside of him, but that is waging war against fire that's in him. Um, so he just calls that hell within, and great chaos untamed, be set against the imperishable flame. That is something I did get from Tolkien's lore. He uses that term, the imperishable flame, at some point in his lore in the Silmarillion. But I really love that like terminology and stuff. So I'm like, I gotta throw that in there too. And if you guys are like, what you like copying all Tolkien stuff? Read up on some Norse mythology, and you'll see Tolkien copied names directly out of that, especially for the dwarves. Okay. All right. Now, the next line is he's sort of saying a prayer, and he says, "Break the binds of fear against my heart." So that's part of like the chaos that's waging war against his inner flame is fear, and he says, "Give me courage to bear the oath of my people," and that is something revealed later on in the story, like what the oath of his people is, and the next line, "The fire blood runs deep. Curse me if I forsake this calling," and he's talking about is this calling to be himself, because that is what the oath of the fireborn is to become themselves, is basically that the actual words is I am become my name. So it's just an oath to become yourself. And basically it is, again, it's just something that they use to hold themselves accountable to become better every day in some way or another, or to learn from the lessons that their failures teach them. Regardless, even though they may fail, they still become better when they learn from their failures. So, yeah. And then the next line is break the siege. And what he's basically, his heart has been under siege, that he has been stuck in a state of siege. Not familiar with these terms. State of siege basically means a siege is like when historically a lot of cities were built with walls around them to help protect them, because they knew when an invading force was going to come out of nowhere and raid everything. So there was a big enough force they could keep a city under siege and completely surround it, cut off all resources, cut off everything, and just starve out the people till they surrendered or died or were weakened to where they could just storm um, the city and take it. So it's basically just everything's cut off and you're just being weakened every single day. That's what he's saying, like describing the state that he was in. He was like under siege. So he's saying break the siege. Like he's realizing he's been under siege and he's, you know, this is in this song he basically he's indignant. Like I said at the beginning, the song's called Day of Indignation. He's indignant, like things that are wrong, unjust, that are not right, and he's beginning to see it, and he's just like full of rage about it. Basically, he's full of fury, you know, and it's fully justified. It's okay to be upset about things like that, you know, as you like understand the story and why he's upset, why he's angry. It's not just like upset like a child, like he's indignant. He's full of righteous fury. It's basically the idea. Then the next lines are unleash the fire inside, unleash the war cry. And you know, this is like at the point where he's like he's breaking the siege and he's confronting the fear that's been keeping him under siege. And he's like dealt with that, all the things that have just been laying siege against who he was and the power inside of him. It's unleashing this great fire inside of him, and with that, you know, it's then he's like unleashed the war cry. He's like, it's time for war. You know, he's like realized all these things are wrong. He's like going to war, and then at this point he's made the decision that he's going to fight, and now he says, "Desert your master now, demons. Ere the arrows of heaven fire fly upon you on this day of my indignation." So that's where I get the title. That's pretty sick, you know, I think. that I feel like that's some of my best works. Like I'm combining like epic elements. I've heard like that's another statement from like The Hobbit, where Thorin's actually like in the movie anyways, uh telling, was it Bard? He's basically like, he's like, leave, ere the arrows, our arrows fly, or something like that. I just thought that was cool, so I was like, I have to like find a way to throw that in there because I think that's sick. Ere the arrows of heaven fire fly upon you. I thought that was sick. I even like, well, yeah, we're getting through the song. This is probably like getting close to the halfway point. No, that's not close to the halfway point yet. So I might have to like split this up and talk about this tomorrow. But we're gonna keep going for another 10 minutes or so. Comment or anything for me. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep sharing. And what I'm talking about here. Next line here is standing for an eternity. The monster tried to break me. From the inside, they tried to sever my heart from my thinking, my life from my beliefs. So he's basically saying, like, once he's made this decision to go to war, it's almost like the process of making this decision. So he's kind of like going back a little bit when he's talking about it, like the line we just read about unleashing the fire and war cry and stuff. That's all like after this next line. So he's kind of like reflecting what's happening, and he basically is like making a stand, and it feels like it's like an eternity. So that's what I mean, standing for an eternity. I don't mean actual eternity, but like just the process of him coming to this decision it just felt like a long time. And in the story, it's basically after the night of his dream where he's called and everything, he basically is uh they always had like a slaver that would come and get them from their dungeon and take them to their work spot, their workplace or whatever, their work area. And he, this day was different, this day of indignation, and he killed the slaver that came to get him. And he basically, as he enters his like court, like basically they were like just from his dungeon. His dungeon was completely isolated from any other. It had its own like stair down to it. So he, enters this his and his dungeon came right up where the courtroom was and everything that he was constructing. And basically he enters this courtroom with this demon head, on a spike, and he just like, sticks it in the ground, and he's just standing there as like and then all the courtroom, like the devils and the other, like his other fellow people are there, and it's all just like quiet, and everyone's just like looking at him, and that's what he's talking about, you know, describe. And then all at once, the court of demons are trying to tear him back down, and like they're saying like it's not too late. You don't have to do this. You don't have to wage war against us. And they even like offer him the safe flight unto death now, rather than making him wait till he was 100 years old, which was just the custom that I made up. And they're just trying to do everything they can to convince him not to do this, because they realize like they're fearful of, even just because of, in the legends, even one Fireborn was known to slay thousands of demons in the first battles in the lore book. So they were known to be very powerful against the forces of the demons. So they're fearful once they're like, when they see that he's like, slayed one of them and put his head on a spear. They're like, this is not good, bro. So they're all like all at once just trying to. They speak all at once and tell him to back down and stuff like that. And that's basically what he's saying here. And they're trying to use their spiritual powers as devils to besiege his heart again. And that's what he's saying. He's like, from the inside they tried to sever my heart from my thinking, and my life from my beliefs. And, it's basically they're trying to like disconnect everything that he's been connecting and putting together. And it's kind of like, this is an argument, sort of. These are his options that he's like thinking about. He's like, all right, so I can take the safe flight unto death and enjoy the rest of your days in idleness, or leap from this false security in fallacies made to enslave entire nations. I read that in a way that he's like thinking about it. I didn't read the actual lyrics. That's basically what it says. So again, that's he's weighing the options. He's like, all right, take the safe flight unto death, enjoy the rest of your days in idleness, or leap from false security and fallacies made to enslave entire nations. And I was gonna have like, the terminology differently there, but that's like the way he sees it. So I thought I would do it that way instead. Like, I was gonna I was like explained it a little bit better, but I'm just gonna like write it the way that like he sees things and like what's going through his head. Yeah. got 5 minutes. You know, I might just continue on and finish this off. Well, no, because some of these still have a lot of weight to them to talk about in them. So, um, but thank you for those who have been joining me. If you want to chat, I'll leave the last 5 minutes to chat here if you'd like to. If you see the comments, check out the Myth Lorecast. I'm going to be uploading more episodes. The goal is to kind of go through Tolkien's lore and some of the different stories and stuff like that. And obviously, like, I have to produce the music and everything for the background, because like with the Myth Lorecast, I make kind of epic background music and I'm reading part of the story, and then after that I'll go and explain a little bit. So I plan on doing that with some of my stories too. Like I did it with one, like I said, sort of like the origin of origins of all my stories, which is like the creation of the world. I just realized I was leaning back, so you probably might not even heard me. But check those out, because I'm wanting to get going with those even further and doing more episodes like once a week or something is the goal. And yeah, I love producing audiobook kind of thing, and doing that podcast is giving me some practice for when I'm going to produce an audiobook for this story that I'm sharing. So I'm going to be making an audiobook with this story. So the goal is to have like an audiobook and an album, you know, about the story. I'll have like maybe like the digital ebook version or something that you could read from if you want. And if I get enough requests for like a paperback or something version of the book, then I might make one. But yeah, otherwise I might just do the audiobook and album. And I'm excited, you know. Like I said, I'm switching to part-time with my day job, so I'm gonna have a lot more time to work on things like this and do lots of sick stuff, bro. So I'm gonna go. Thank you anyone who joined me, especially Roland. Thanks for leaving some comments. It was good to chat a little bit, and we'll see you in the next Coffee with AJ live, or otherwise another video or podcast I'm doing, because I'm gonna be doing a lot. So check out my Facebook page. That's where I'm gonna be doing most of this stuff, and we'll see you later. Stay metal, take massive action, storm hell.